we make our screenplay better? Well, that's the $1 million question, literally. If we can do this well, then we can sell our screenplay for $1 million or more. Now, there's many books on rewriting, but the best, in my opinion, is Your Screenplay Sucks by William M. Akers. Each chapter is a reason that screenplays fail, and a chance to challenge whether ours stands up. So read it now, but it'll actually be much more valuable to us after we finish our second screenplay. Even if we do read it now, we should read it again when that time comes. To get us started, we're going to look at a set of questions that other people are going to ask of our screenplay, consciously or subconsciously, as they read it. Number 1, is the protagonist interesting? If they're not, then why should anyone invest 2 hours of their time reading about or watching them? Does the protagonist have a scene in the first 10 pages that shows how interesting they are? In Raiders of the Lost Ark, Lawrence Kasdan wastes no time in making sure that we know that Indiana Jones is the coolest, most exciting guy in the world. He's out in the jungle, searching places so scary that the locals won't even approach. Then he foils an attempt on his life with a whip. Sold. This is a guy I'm watching for hours with a big smile on my face. However, interesting does not necessarily mean exciting. Many protagonists are underachievers at the start of their story. The story will help them achieve whatever it is they've been avoiding, be it love or success. That's why we're watching them. But we still need to show that they have something that sets them apart from the crowd, or at least the potential to be special. In *Romancing the Stone*, written by Diane Thomas, Joan Wilder's a romance novelist who lives an almost downtrodden life in New York. She's successful, but she fears her fame. She's uncomfortable in crowds and unwilling to seek out love. She is the stark opposite of her literary heroines. And to all intents and purposes, she's boring. So to solve this, Diane Thomas makes some very smart choices. First, the story opens as we watch one of her romance novels play out. So we see how exciting Joan's imagination is, even if her life is quite the opposite. Second, after a brief introduction to Joan, we jump to Colombia, a world away from New York, and the world that Joan is going to be thrown into. It's the juxtaposition of these two worlds that interests us. How is Joan going to survive there? If we met this boring novelist and then found out that her challenge was to get to Brooklyn and deliver a book to her sister, we wouldn't care at all. That would just be the boring journey of a boring person. But put her in Colombia and we become excited to see how she survives. Question 2. Is the protagonist empathetic? This is not the same as likable. There is a myth that producers and studio execs want all protagonists to be likable, that they all have to be people who are charming and nice to everyone all the time. Not true. Screenplays with all sorts of protagonists are bought and put into production. But all those protagonists are empathetic in the sense that the audience can understand why they do what they do. They want the protagonist to succeed. We have to show in those opening pages that our hero is someone we can root for, no matter what world they come from or what flaws they have. The wonderful book, Save the Cat by Blake Snyder, is titled to explain exactly this phenomenon. I'm paraphrasing, so go and read the full book yourself when you get a chance, but in essence, he argues that we need to include a scene early on where our hero saves the cat, i.e., they do something that means the audience sides with them and wants them to succeed. Goodfellas, screenplay by Nicholas Pileggi and Martin Scorsese, is a perfect example of this. So the protagonist is Henry Hill, a kid with very loose morals who is desperate to be a wise guy. He drops out of school, gets a mailman beaten up, and partakes in all sorts of crime. But when he's arrested, he keeps his mouth shut. We now know that he's loyal and honourable to those around him. Now, whether we want to be a wise guy or be friends with this guy in real life is irrelevant. We now want this guy to succeed. In Happy Gilmore, Happy is a loser. He can't keep a job, can't make it as a pro hockey player, and can't even keep his girlfriend. But he loves his grandma, and it's totally genuine. He will give up anything for his grandma. His money, his house, anything. So when the chance arises for him to become an unlikely golf superstar, we want him to succeed. As we established, Indiana Jones is the coolest guy on the planet, but that's still not enough. Coolness will only get us so far. We still need to have empathy for what he does, especially since his methods seem so nefarious. How does Kazdan do that? Well, after he steals the idol from its cultural home, it is stolen from Indiana by Belloc. When Indy gets back to the university, he discusses with Marcus the money he needs to get to Marrakesh, steal it once more from Belloc so that it can be placed in the museum. And there it is. Unlike Belloc, everything Indy does is to give these pieces to the people and put them in a museum. Now we know that his motives are pure and we can support his choices, no matter how questionable they may be. Question 3. Does every scene move the story forward? If not, then what's it doing there? This is the moment where we need to learn to be brutal on our own work. We may have written the scene in good faith, but the development of the story may have made the scene redundant. If so, we must lose it, even if we love it. If it doesn't move the story forward, then it's not necessary and it must go. This is not unlike the work of an editor once the footage reaches post-production. On nearly every movie, a huge amount of footage is shot that never makes the final edit. Sometimes because the performances just didn't work that day, but mostly because the line or scene or sequence is deemed unnecessary to the final story. The editor can take the objective view of the footage that the writer and director find it nearly impossible to do. However, to have a shot at getting our script bought and anywhere near production, we must be our own editor, and we must be ruthless. Question 4. Are the obstacles and the solution to those obstacles unexpected? This is our first draft, remember, so we've got a lot of rewriting to do. But after finishing any draft, if we look at something and think, that just feels a bit predictable, then change it now. Why wait for everyone else to tell us that it was indeed predictable? Our plot twists must surprise and excite. If people don't know us, then they have no reason to keep turning the pages other than the story they're reading. Every page must make them think, oh, that's nice, I've never seen that before. The first time they think, that's just like that other movie, or, yep, that's exactly what I expected to happen, that's it. Our script is tossed aside. Question 5. Does the resolution close off all the stories? Now, if the reader has made it this far, then great, we're doing something right. But we want them to finish the last page, close the script, pick up the phone to their boss and say, I've just found a script that we have to buy right now. Remember, the chances of this script ever making it to production are very slim. But when people find a truly great script, they will buy it, if for no other reason than to stop somebody else owning it. And that sale could be all we need to get things rolling. We do that by giving them a resolution that is truly satisfying. If they close the script, stop for a moment and think, hang on, like what happened to the guy with the dog and why didn't that waitress move with them to Hawaii? Again, we're done. Closing the final page of a screenplay should feel like the end of a good sneeze, as all the tension that's been built up just flows out from every extremity, leaving us all gooey and borderline euphoric. We can't do that if we're worrying about what happened to the guy with the dog. Track back on all the stories you've set up. Every one of them must have a definite ending. That way the reader can stamp recommend on the end of our script and go to sleep happy. So there, 5 key questions to ask to make our script better. Go and look through it now and see what needs changing.